This is the 2023 Cadillac Escalade V Series. It's got tons of luxurious features, tech goodies inside, and plenty of space, but who cares? Just listen to this thing. What's up, folks? I'm Dave Undercoffler, editor-in-chief of Autolist, a sister company to CarGurus. Never content to leave well enough alone, Cadillac's power mad engineers got their hands on the Escalade and turned it into a hot rod. That's right, you are looking at the most powerful SUV on the market that's not electric. There are 682 horsepower under this hood, but is that going to be enough to keep up with more refined rivals from Mercedes and BMW? Let's go find out. But before we do, be sure to like and subscribe to this page so you can get alerts on all of our future updates. All right, let's start with a look at the exterior of this Escalade. Now, unlike some other V-Series cars in Cadillac's lineup, there aren't huge changes to the exterior. They're pretty minimal over a normal Escalade. The biggest change up front is this lower fascia. It's not all that different, but this opening has been enlarged. This intake here is fake, but it's also been redesigned versus the base model. And then if you notice the grille, this is a sport mesh grille. You can get it on other Cadillac Escalades, but it's standard on the V-Series here. Moving to the side, you have 22-inch alloy wheels. Those are unique to the V-Series model. You also have Brembo brakes up front and rear red calipers. There's also this big V-Series badge on the door, really one of the only badges on the exterior of this truck. And you've got power-operated running boards that are lit up at night. Moving to the back, the biggest change back here is that this diffuser has been redesigned. It's a little more aggressive now, and it houses these quad tailpipes. You've already heard some of that. We're going to show you what those can do a little bit later as well. Other things to note, you've got a small V-Series badge on the tailgate here. This glass opens separate from the tailgate. That's a nice little feature. And if you're looking around like we were for the button to open the hatch, well, that's actually integrated right into the Cadillac emblem. Now, as I mentioned, the V-Series Escalade packs a wallop under the hood. Like the base model, it has a 6.2-liter V8, but here it's been supercharged. That gets you 682 horsepower and 653 pound-feet of torque. All of that power is routed through a 10-speed automatic transmission that's been recalibrated for this V-Series model, and you've also got full-time all-wheel drive. Add that all up, and this full-size SUV will do 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds, according to Car and Driver. That is insane. And in case you care, which we bet most buyers won't, the EPA rates this at 11 miles per gallon in the city, 16 miles on the highway, and 13 miles per gallon overall. Now, the inside of this V-Series is basically just a fully loaded Escalade. This model starts at about $150,000, and there really aren't many options you can add to it at all. So everything you see here is going to come with any V-Series that you choose. The biggest thing you're going to notice are the screens. You've got a 7.2-inch screen over here, a 14.2-inch digital display for the instrument panel, and then a larger 17-inch screen for your infotainment system. And all of these screens work really well together. Over here, this screen controls a lot of the features and functions of the other screens, as well as the heads-up display that's included. You have this instrument panel, and there's a variety of settings for this. One of them is augmented reality, which basically just shows you a camera view of what's in front of you. We've used that a little bit and only found it was useful when you're using the navigation system, because then it overlays the directions onto that screen so you can see exactly where you're supposed to turn. Otherwise, it's not very useful. It's kind of distracting, so we would skip using that. It also has a night vision mode. That sounds cool, but again, it's really more of a distraction than something useful. What we do love is the maps mode. It displays a really bright and crisp map right there. That's been really nice. Overall, these screens are nicely laid out and they look really good. This infotainment system has wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. We also like that there is redundancy built in. This is a touchscreen itself, but then you've got this rotary knob down here that you can also use, and then a variety of home and menu buttons surrounding it. And then finally, our favorite feature, an actual volume knob. It's not a touchscreen or a haptic feedback. That's nice to have. Some other highlights of the interior include the leather. Everywhere you look is this really nice leather. This is called dark auburn. That's kind of cool. You also have a dark wood finish complementing that, and then some brushed metal accents on the climate control. Up top, you've got a panoramic moonroof, and then a 36-speaker 3D surround sound audio system that's really crisp and clear. I love that. And if you notice, there are even speakers built into the headrests. Also, ours doesn't have it, but Cadillac will be offering its Super Cruise hands-free driving system on the V-Series. Finally, unique to this V-Series model are these leather seats that are heated, cooled, and massaging up front, and a heated steering wheel. Now, just because this is a 682 horsepower hot rod doesn't also mean that it can't handle some family duties. There's a lot back here that I really like. Let me show you some of the highlights. You've got two captain's chairs here. You got your own armrest. These seats move back and forth for more space. That's kind of cool, and they also recline. There we go. And in a minute, I'll show you how they flip and fold out of the way. You also have this rear seat entertainment system, and what's nice is that these two screens are independently operated, so you can have one thing playing on this screen and one thing playing on this screen. That's kind of cool. You also have wireless headphones for the passengers in these seats, and then another set for the passengers in the rear seats. That's a nice little feature. You also have your own climate control settings back here, and that includes 3-stage heated seats for this middle row. You also have a pair of cup holders that pop out there. Down below, you have a pair of HDMI inputs, one for each screen. You've got a pair of USB-C ports, and finally, just like at home, a 120-volt outlet. There's also some nice functionality built into these seats for the second row and for the third row. Let me show you what I'm talking about. For one, the floor back here is basically flat, so if you wanted to, you could just scoot around the seat here and get to the rear seats that way. That's kind of a nice trick. This seat does fold down flat if you need to store some cargo back there. There's also a button here to get it to fold like this, and if I hit that button again or pull this lever again, it'll fold out of the way, and I can get to that third row. Finally, as you would hope, the third row of seats really isn't the penalty box that maybe it is in some rivals. You've got a fair amount of room, and what I really like is that the floor down here is not too high. Some other competitors to this, you'll be sitting up with your knees kind of close to your chest. I'm 6'1". I've got all 3 seats adjusted to where I would have them, and I do have plenty of room, and I like that. So that means I've got plenty of room for my knees, my feet, my head. There's actually room to spare, so that's a nice little trick. You also have some goodies back here. You have a USB-C charge port. I've got my own dome light, some air vents. There's also a speaker above me, part of that 36-speaker sound system. And as I mentioned earlier, you do have really easy access to this button that gets the middle seat right out of your way. So all of those features are really nice to have. The only downside to the space back here is that there's a lot of flat plastic, and that's going to show its age. It's going to scuff really easily, and this is where you're going to put kids, so it's a little bit of a disappointment to have this stuff on a car that costs $150,000. Turning to the back of this Escalade, there's quite a bit of cargo space with the third row of seats up. This is about 25 cubic feet. If that's not enough, you can fold this third row and get about 73 cubic feet. So that's pretty good. Definitely more than the Mercedes-Benz GLS or the BMW X7. Another thing to note is that these third row of seats are power folding, both up and down. Finally, if you truly need more cargo space than what you see here, Cadillac does make this V-Series Escalade in the ESV version. That's the long wheelbase version, and that gives you about 42 cubic feet of space with this third row of seats up. That's pretty impressive. Finally, a couple of other features we think are cool. For one, there's a 120-volt outlet in the back here. These seats in the second row are also foldable by the touch of a button back here, and the driver or passenger all the way up front has a button that they can hit to fold this third row of seats to get them out of the way if somebody's loading cargo back here. All right, driving impressions. My favorite thing about driving this V-Series Escalade is that there's sort of a dual personality Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing going on, and Cadillac is really good about tuning that difference into its V-Series cars. So if you want a pretty docile daily driver, a normal SUV to get you around town, you and the kids, this Escalade can do it despite all the power that it has. It's got 5 different drive modes you can put it in. One of those is customizable, and then on top of that, there's a 6th mode called the V mode, and this allows you to totally customize 6 different settings. So that's steering, suspension, the shift points in the transmission, the brake feel, the sound of the exhaust, and the all-wheel drive programming. And that's pretty cool to have that level of customization. So basically what all that means is that when you want a hot rod SUV, you've got that at the touch of a button, and when you want just a normal large SUV to cruise around town, you have that as well. In those normal driving situations, the V-Series is just as comfortable and quiet as an Escalade should be, right? This is a normally $80,000 to $110,000 SUV. It feels very much the part. The steering is nice and direct. The suspension uses GM's excellent magnetic ride setup paired with an active air suspension. So when I'm going around curves like this, the body stays pretty level. There's not a lot of body roll for something this big and heavy. Remember, this is 6,200 pounds, so there's a lot of vehicle moving around. There's also basically no road and wind noise coming into the cabin. That's excellent, and trust me, I've had this up at some high speeds. It has remained quiet at any speed. That's really nice. Probably my only nitpick about how this vehicle drives is the visibility. Out back, it's actually pretty terrible, and that's kind of surprising, right? This is a big upright SUV. You'd think you'd be able to see out of it very easily. That's not quite the case, especially looking out the rearview mirror. When it comes to competition, there aren't many other rivals that you would put up against this V-Series Escalade. You're looking at a performance 3-row large SUV. So the ones that come to mind are the Mercedes-Benz GLS 63 AMG. That's a pretty good one. You also have BMW's XB7. That's kind of the performance version of the X7. So probably the biggest difference between this Cadillac and those German models is that this rides on a truck platform. This shares it with the Chevy Tahoe or the GMC Yukon. So it's going to feel a little less refined than either of those other 2 models. But the benefit is that you do get much more space for both passengers and cargo in this SUV. So if you're looking for sort of the most refined, well-rounded of those three, I would probably opt for the Mercedes AMG. But if you're looking for the hot rod that can also haul lots of people and cargo, you're definitely going to have the most fun in this Cadillac. But what do you guys think? If you were choosing a large performance SUV, would you go for this hot rod Cadillac, or would you go the more refined route that the Mercedes-Benz or BMW offer? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. In terms of safety, the Escalade V series comes with pre-collision alert and braking with pedestrian detection, automatic reverse braking, rear cross-traffic alert, a 360-degree parking camera, and lane keep assist with lane departure warning. Finally, remember, you will be able to get Cadillac's Super Cruise hands-free driving system on this Escalade. All right, folks, there you have it, our review of the 2023 Cadillac Escalade-V series. Pros? Well, it's the most powerful non-electric SUV on the market with one of the best sounding exhausts we've heard in a long time. And it's got a crisp and clear infotainment system and plenty of space inside for both cargo and people. Cons? Well, it rides on a truck platform, so it's not going to be as refined as some of its rivals. It also shares some interior bits with a much cheaper Chevy Tahoe. And finally, it doesn't have the visual differentiation from a base model Escalade, and some buyers are going to care about that. So for reviews or listings of this Escalade or anything else you're shopping for, new or used, be sure to check out CarGurus.com. And before you go, like and subscribe to this channel so you can get alerts on all of our future updates. We'll see you out there.